Hi everyone! So I have made a new prologue. It was something that was kind of hard for me to do because I was really attached to my other prologue, but I think this one prepares the reader a little better, and so hopefully you will enjoy it. Marie's small leather suitcase was packed. She wouldn't need much for 3 days in the US. She would be back in France before the end of the week. Baby Josephine cried from her crib. She hadn't slept again last night. Marie knew she was in pain. The diaper rash was worse, and the cream the doctor had prescribed was useless. She thought of trying to pick her up and comfort her again, but every time she held her baby, she was reminded that she'd soon have to say goodbye. A piece of Marie was chipped away every time she held her newborn. Thierry had taken 10-year-old Elise to school. Thierry was a good father. He would take care of their daughter while Marie was in California. She loved her husband. Thierry was so patient and had taken her back despite her unfaithfulness. They were going to work things out. 15 years together and their daughter Elise was enough reason to fight for their marriage, wasn't it? Baby Josephine shrieked louder in her crib, and her cry was the only thing that made Marie question her decision. Josephine's cry ushered in a deep longing to call the whole plan off. She could tell Thierry that if he wanted her to stay, Josephine would have to stay too. He did not want more children, but Elise was no trouble. She even helped feed the baby her bottle. If Thierry insisted on her leaving, she could call Hans in California and tell him they would have to come up with another solution. She knew Hans still loved her and Josephine, even though he had returned to his wife May and their 5 children. She was sure Hans' sister Marley was the main reason Hans had returned to his family. Marley was manipulative. She had agreed to take Josephine and raise her as her own, but on her terms. She made Marie and Hans promise they would have nothing to do with Josephine. Josephine would never know who her parents were. Marie had a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach. Hans said Marley hated him and Marie for having committed adultery. Would Marley really treat their baby fairly and raise her with love? The thought of her tiny baby being treated according to the actions of her parents overwhelmed Marie now. An intense wave of anxiety thrust up from the pit of her stomach. She ran to the bathroom outside her room and leaned over the toilet. If only all her worries had been expelled simultaneously, then maybe she could feel again. Marie wet a towel and wiped her face. She forced herself to go into the living room and attend to her baby. Josephine's skin was bright red from her crying. Her mouth was opened as wide as she could manage. Her whole body shook from her powerful cries. Marie had to pick her up. She quieted her thoughts that told her not to get attached to this child. Instinct took over, and she put Josephine to her rest. The baby resisted at first. She was still upset from being left to cry alone. The offer of her mother's milk soon persuaded her, and she nursed contently. Marie looked at Josephine. She was so long. Her tiny pink fingers and toes were equally long and thin. The nurses had been surprised that for a blonde baby, she already had a full head of hair. She was beautiful. Marie had already cried so many tears. Surely she had none left. She was surprised to feel more tears streaming down her face. Marie watched as her tears fell on Josephine. As they did, they mixed with Josephine's that had not quite dried on her tiny pink cheeks. Marie wondered what the future would hold for them. She worried about Josephine even more than she worried about her own emotional state. What would the future hold for her daughter if Marley didn't love this precious baby as much as she did? All right, so if you like it, like my page and subscribe. And thanks for watching. And please share my video. Thank you. And the book's coming out in November, so stay tuned. Bye.